Hello guys, welcome back to LeetCode. So in our SQL series, we have been solving various questions present on LeetCode. So I'm back with another brand new question, restaurant growth. Okay, so without any delay, let's jump to the question. So in this question, we have a customer table, okay, and this customer table consists of 4 columns, which has customer ID, the name of that customer, the date on which that customer visited, and the amount, that how much that customer totally paid to the restaurant. Okay, now here customer ID and visited on column are the primary key of this table. Fine. The question says that you are the restaurant owner and you want to analyze a possible expansion. Fine. Now what we have to do is we have to compute the moving average of how much a customer paid in 7 days window, that is from the first day to 7 day, from the second day, like the 7-day period. In the 7-day period, how much that customer paid, that will be our average amount, and it should be rounded to 2 decimal places. Okay, and we have to return the result in the order of visited on in ascending order. Okay, so this is the example given in the question, and we have to return the output table as shown in this example. Okay, we have a visited on column, we have amount column, and we have average amount. Okay, if you look at the customer table over here, we have customer ID, name, visited on, and amount. Okay, now from 1st of January till 7th of January period, the total amount we got, the restaurant got, is 860, and average of it is 122. Now from the second date, that is 2nd January till 8th of January, the total amount received is 840 as given in the output table, and the average is 120. So this is how we have to calculate the amount and average amount of this 7-day period. Okay, here is an explanation given over here, which I just explained. That is the first moving average from January 1 to January 7. Okay, then the second moving average is from 2nd of January till 8th of January, and so on. Okay, so we have to write the SQL query for same. So let's start with a query. We are taking all this data from our customer table. So here I am creating an instance of this customer table, which is C, which will be used in a further SQL query. Okay, from our customer table, the very first thing required in our output table is visited on column. So we will select our visited on column, visited on, okay, from our customer table, where the condition is, now as you can see in our output table, the starting date is 7th of January. That is date. We have to return the 7th day date, okay, which is subtracting the previous 6 days. Okay, so for that we will use a where condition, where this visited on is greater than equal to, and here I will use a subquery. Subquery will return us the date after the 6 days when the customer, or the earliest customer, visited the restaurant. Okay, so the first earliest customer visited on 7th January. So this output table will calculate the average amount of these 7 days and will return us the data from the 7th day. Okay, so this subquery, the function of the subquery is same, that it will return us the days after 6 days when the customer visited. Okay, so for that we will select, now here I am using a window function, that is date add visited on. Okay, so this min function will return us the minimum value of visited on. Okay, so for example, if the minimum value is 1st January, it will return us the 1st January, then interval 6 and day. Okay, so this will add 6 days to the minimum value which is being returned by this function. Okay, so after adding 6 to 1st January, we will get 7th of January. Okay, so here we will get the 7th of January, and so on. We will get 8 January, 9 January, and 10 January. Okay, from where we are taking this data? From our customer table. Okay, and then what we will do is we will group by the result. Group by visited on. you run this query, you will get the visited on column as it is. Okay, as you can see in our output table, we got the visited on column as it is. Now we have to calculate the amount and average amount. For that, I will create a subquery which will calculate the amount. So we will select amount column represents the sum of amount paid by the customer in the 7-day window. Okay, so for that I will use a sum function, sum inside which is amount. Okay, from where? From a customer table. Again, here we will use a where condition where the visited on between. Here again I will use a window function date, and here we will subtract the date, which is, here I am using the instance, this instance customer.c instance, the c visited interval 6 days and c dot visited as our amount. Okay, so the subquery starts from here and ends here. So what this subquery will do is, we have to calculate the sum, so we will use the sum function for the amount column. Okay, here is our amount column, this column present over here. So here I am using the window function to subtract the date, that is 6 days, which is the c dot visited on. This is the date which we got from here, this subquery, where we calculated the date. Okay, that is 7 January, 8 January, 9 January and 10 January for our output table. So this c dot visited on is the date which we recently calculated, and we will subtract 6 from those days. So the sum of amount from the starting date, that is the highest date, that is 7 January, and this will return us the 1st January. Okay, this window function will return us 1st January and 7th January. So this subquery will calculate the sum of amount from 1st January to 7th January, respectively. Okay, so this subquery will calculate the sum amount of every 7-day window. Okay, from the present date to 6 days before that day. Okay, so the function of the subquery is to calculate the sum of amount for that particular 7-day period, and we have been using this where condition to calculate that. Okay, the date between, this will return us the date 6 days before this date. Okay, now next thing which we have to calculate is average amount. So for that average amount we will use the same query. Okay, so for that we will subtract this sum by 7 to calculate the average. Okay, and the question says that the result, the output table, should be rounded to 2 decimal places. So I will use the round function over here up to 2 decimal places. Okay, and we will name this query as average amount. Okay, so our queries are done. What did this second query did is, we just divided this amount which we calculated by 7 to calculate the average amount, and as the question says that you have to return the result which should be rounded to 2 decimal places, so we applied the round function over here. Okay, so let's run this query and check if it is correct or not. So our query is correct and we got our expected output. So let's understand again what we did in this query. Okay, so first we calculated the date that we require, that is the date from the after the 6 days period. Okay, so the present date, then after the 6 days what will be the date. So for that we used this subquery to calculate that. Then we calculated the amount, that total amount from the present date and before 6 days. Okay, the total amount from the present date to the 6 days before. Okay, so for that we use this query, and the next query is to calculate the average of that sum we calculated before. Okay, that's it. It's quite easy. We just use some functions to calculate, to solve this question. Okay, so do practice the same question in your LeetCode and let me know in comment section if it is helping. Any other doubt is most welcome. Okay, so share it with your friends, and if you haven't subscribed She Codes yet, so do subscribe She Codes, because I'll be back with more such questions and explanations. And like the video. Thank you. Bye bye. Happy coding.